Good morning. Good morning. You can hear me with my mask on, yes? Yeah. Good. My name's Susie Dugas, and I'm a member of the Board of Trustees. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of the Hudson Valley. Whether you have been with this congregation a decade or more, or this is your first time visiting, we welcome you. Whatever the faith and traditions of your past, we welcome you. Whatever your theological stance, we welcome you. Whoever you are and whomever you love, we welcome you. Whatever your heritage, we welcome you. We respectfully acknowledge the territory on which our church building sits as the ancestral homeland of the Munsee, Lenape, and Wappinger people. And I did not receive any announcements, so, okay. For the most up-to-date information, please refer to our weekly newsletter and check our website frequently. The website is also the place where you can find contact information for our staff, Board of Trustees, and other congregational leaders. And please join us for conversation after the service. If you're present in the sanctuary, you can join us in the parking lot. If you're watching the live stream, you'll receive a link at the end of the service for a Zoom virtual coffee hour. If you're just joining us and would like to receive our weekly e-news, please email us and we will make sure you are added to our e-news list. We can also answer any questions you might have. Email us at uucroton@gmail.com or fill out one of the yellow cards in the back of the pews and drop in the collection plate. Let's see. There's a Saturday morning UUCHV email reminder that has the link if you want to join for the virtual coffee hour for the future, to let you know. Please silence your cell phones at this time, and once again, we welcome you to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of the Hudson Valley.
We gather here in reflection and in expectation and in hope. We gather in this house of worship with the memory of those who were here before us on the journey of faith. We gather in expectation that our worship shall sustain us in body and in soul. We gather in hope that our religious community may not only prevail but serve each other and the cause of humanity.
Our chalice lighting today is by Edward Everett Hale. I am only one, but still I am one. I cannot do everything, but still I can do something. And because I cannot do everything, I will not refuse to do the something that I can do. Now please join me in saying the Unison Affirmation. The words are in your order of service. Inspired by love, our mission is to seek our true nature, connect deeply and openly, and act for justice. Let us now bear witness to the joys and sorrows experienced in our community. If you have a personally significant joy or sorrow that you are willing to share, please come up to the microphone to my left, your right, and speak it loudly and clearly so that even with your mask on, we can all hear you. The microphone will allow our friends watching virtually to hear what you're saying. I will light a candle for each. When you are done speaking, please use the center aisle to return to your seat. If you would prefer to only have a candle lit without speaking, please just stand and I will light a candle for you. Please go ahead. Thank you.
Me again. I have a joy. Today, my son is on an outing with a group of people He's outside at Greenwood Nature Center, and he's out of the house. So I had to, make sure he got on the bus, but it should be a really good day. Thank you.
Yep. So please just line up for those of you that want to do your joy, say a joy or sorrow into the microphone. And I'm lighting a candle. Thank you, Jim.
Sorrow, my mom's cousin in Texas, who she was good friends with, passed away after a 2-month struggle with COVID.
Any others? I actually do have a joy to share. I wasn't here last Sunday because I had the pleasure of spending the weekend with my family, primarily my son and daughter-in-law and my 2 grandchildren that came down from Massachusetts. And we all got to go out to Long Island and celebrate my daughter-in-law's grandfather's 90th birthday. So I'm going to light a candle for that. We also acknowledge all the unspoken joys and sorrows held within the sanctuary of our hearts, and all those people who have yet to find a spiritual home where they too can share their joys and sorrows.
I invite you now to join in the spirit of meditation. You may want to do so by sitting up a little straighter, putting your feet flat on the floor to ground you to the earth. Close your eyes if you wish to, or leave them just slightly opened, and slowly take in a nice deep breath and gently release it, releasing all of the stress of the week. The most transformative and resilient leaders that I've worked with over the course of my career have 3 things in common. First, they recognize the central role that relationships and story play in culture and strategy, and that they stay curious about their own emotions, thoughts, and behaviors. Second, they understand and stay curious about how emotions, thoughts, and behaviors are connected in the people they lead, and how those factors affect relationships and perception. And third, they have the ability and willingness to lean into discomfort and vulnerability. Creativity embeds knowledge so that it can become practice. We move what we're learning from our heads to our hearts through our hands. We are born makers, and creativity is the ultimate act of integration. It is how we fold our experiences into our being. The Asero tribe of Indonesia and Papua New Guinea has a beautiful saying: knowledge is only a rumor until it lives in the muscle. Let us join now in a moment of silent meditation.
Our reading today is from Job, chapter 19, verses 1 through 27. Then Job answered, "How long will you torment me and break me in pieces with words? These 10 times you have cast reproach upon me. Are you not ashamed to wrong me? And even if it is true that I erred, my error remains with me. If indeed you magnify yourselves against me and make my humiliation an argument against me, know then that God has put me in the wrong and closed his net around me. Even when I cry out violence, I am not answered. I call aloud, but there is no justice. He has walled up my way so that I cannot pass, and he has set darkness upon my paths. He has stripped my glory from me and taken the crown from my head. He breaks me down on every side, and I am gone. He has uprooted my hope like a tree. He has kindled his wrath against me and counts me as his adversary. His troops come on together. They have thrown up siege works against me and encamp around my tent. He has put my family far from me, and my acquaintances are wholly estranged from me. My relatives and close friends have failed me. The guests in my house have forgotten me. My serving girls count me as a stranger. I've become an alien in their eyes. I call to my servant, but he gives no answer. I must myself plead with him. My breath is repulsive to my wife. I am loathsome to my own family. Even young children despise me. When I rise, they talk against me. All my intimate friends abhor me, and those whom I loved have turned against me. My bones cling to my skin and to my flesh, and I have escaped by the skin of my teeth. Have pity on me, O you, my friends, for the hand of God has touched me. Why do you, like God, pursue me, never satisfied with my flesh? Oh, that my words were written down. Oh, that they were inscribed in a book. Oh, that with an iron pen and with lead they were engraved on a rock forever. For I know that my Redeemer lives, and that at the last he will stand upon the earth. And after my skin has been thus destroyed, then in my flesh I shall see God, whom I shall see on my side, and my eyes shall behold, and not another. My heart faints within me.
The problem, my dear colleague proclaimed on social media, is everything. I know what she means. Just when the pandemic seemed to be drawing to a close, the Delta variant comes along. Hurricanes once again ravish our nation, but this time work their way up the coast to us in New York. The quagmire of Afghanistan has finally come to a close after a generation of involvement, a messy end that presidents have been kicking down the road for their successors for some years now. And that's just the stuff happening at the national and international level. I just scratched the surface of the things on the news. Add to that things going on in your personal life, in your relationship, in your job, with your kids or your elderly parents, finances, health, anything else that may be adding stress to your life. All of that can compound pretty quickly. How's the old saying go? When life gives you lemons, make lemonade. The cover of our order of service is kind of my preaching text for today. For those of you on live stream, it shows a man getting pelted by lemons with a juicer next to him and gallons of lemonade being made while this poor person, I'm assuming it's a man, it's probably not necessarily a good assumption, has their head down on the table and is just being hit with lemons. There is no caption, just that image of lemons coming fast and furious while this poor person is taking a break from trying to squeeze whatever juice they can in order to make lemonade. It's the perfect metaphor for our times and the mounting stress and frustration that we have. Yet what choice do we have really other than to try and make some lemonade out of what is headed our way? So for those of you who have too many lemons coming at you in your life and are running low on sugar to try and sweeten the batch, this morning's message is for you. The following conjecture I cannot prove. I think that it may be revealed someday down the road in an unknown manner that there could have been a few Unitarian Universalist ministers who secretly, in their heart of hearts, voted for Trump. Life was so much easier for us then. Sermons in the Trump era were a breeze. You had material delivered to you multiple times a week, and all you needed was a Twitter account. You look over what he said that week, take the top 3 most outrageous things that you think you can work with, write 2 pages on each, opening and closing, and you are done. I think UU ministers and stand-up comedians probably loved the endless material that just seemed to flow to us that way. But I suppose this is better. The world is going to hell in a handbasket at its usual moderate rate rather than the speed of sound like it was back then. But you know what? Limitations bring creativity. I'll never forget hearing about the writers of The Daily Show with Jon Stewart. I'm sure many of you remember this show from a few years ago. And someone once asked the folks who wrote for that show, how do they come up with such great stuff based on the news? You don't have much time to come up with jokes based on things that happened just a few hours before. Actually, they said the time limitation was crucial. Creativity happens when you have a deadline. If you had all day to come up with funny jokes about politics, then you never will. Unlimited resources of time or money or staff that makes it easy to be lazy or lax in one's creative decisions. Having to deliver every day, or in the case of us ministers every Sunday, is a crucial element to that process. Limitation necessitates resourcefulness and therefore creativity. Which I suppose is kind of the whole point to that saying about making lemonade out of lemons. Say, for example, one was to actually have a big bowl of lemons, or as many lemons as you want. What do you do with them? Well, they're sour, and usually their only use is a little lemon juice in this recipe or that, usually at the very end. But making lemonade requires a little bit of a different mindset. Lemonade has the lemons not as some element to the side or as an enhancement to some other dish. Lemonade means you think of those lemons as the center. Lemonade is only possible with a lot of lemons, and it takes a lot of sugar to transform all that sour into something drinkable. So the saying about finding a third way to look at our problems. Corporate facilitators have come up with all kinds of cliches about this. Sometimes they say we have to think outside the box. It's better to light a candle than to curse the darkness. Whatever you want to call it, it's a process in which we question our assumptions and make room for some new perspective. Another one I like to throw out there, actually one of my favorites, is the line from Bobby Kennedy, "Some men see the world and ask why. I dream things that never were and ask why not." I like to call that an abundance mindset, as opposed to a scarcity mindset. An abundance mindset dreams things that never were and asks, why not? In fact, I think that this is our UU gospel, the good news that we bring to a hurt and broken world. when everyone else is scouring through the past, recounting this and that detail, hating on each other on the internet, grabbing power as they do in some religions and corporations, trying to analyze the market and the public opinion entrenched in old Byzantine mindsets that worked a generation ago. Unitarian Universalism looks instead to what could be, dreams what might be, imagines a beloved community of love and justice, and asks seriously, why not? The good news of Unitarian Universalism is an abundance mindset that seeks to manifest the possible while everyone else is obsessing about what happened yesterday. Had we been able to sing hymns, I would have had us sing once again On Tranquil Streams, one of my all-time favorites. Just because I love that line in the third verse, a faith that reveres the past but trusts the dawning future more. It's surprising to me how many religions, faith traditions, heck, even New Age spirituality feels the need to hew closely to the past in order to reassure itself of the present, or to force people into believing things that maybe they didn't think about very much. Kind of does their thinking for them, right? Now, I have nothing against tradition. I'm not an anti-tradition person. In fact, I sometimes wonder if we haven't thrown the baby out with the bathwater in Unitarian Universalism when it comes to some of our traditions. But again, I'm an old white guy bordering on curmudgeonly status, so of course I would think that. But I think one of our core messages, our core teachings in this time and place to these people in contemporary America, it would be dream things that could be and ask, how do we make that happen? How could we live this out? How do we come from a vision that is merely a dream, no matter how compelling it may be, to our everyday reality? That's what Dr. King did. So did many people who were with him, followed him, and have been inspired by him since. Many have dreamed as he did, but he crossed the divide, which is like the divide between heaven and earth, they say in China, to making his dream a reality. We see this also in our reading this morning from the book of Job. That reading comes kind of towards the end of the story about Job. So, in case you're maybe not as familiar with that book or you don't remember it, I shall relate a little bit as to the setup to our poor friend Job. In the beginning of the story, God and Satan have a discussion. By the way, one of the very few appearances of that character of Satan in the Bible, but that's another sermon unto itself. Anyway, God's kind of showing off a little bit. Points out Job, who's super good and super prosperous. Satan says, well, of course he's good. Of course he's going to praise your name. Happy people will worship you if you bless them with money and happiness. Take all that stuff away from Job and watch how fast he curses you. And in a strangely reminiscent of the movie Trading Places, God and Satan come up with this sort of wager. He says to Satan, take away all he's got, his money, his children die, his livestock, his cattle, but don't kill him, and his health as well. And he gets boils, and he's rolling around in sackcloth and ashes, and finally Job's friends come by and try to counsel him. However, all they can do is kind of think in this very linear way. You must have, and you hear this in the reading today, you must have done something wrong in the past for God to punish you so much. But I didn't do anything wrong, insists Job. And the book is mostly a series of monologues between Job and his friends regarding these sort of competing perspectives. So they go through all these guys questioning Job. I think they go through it twice, actually. And Job is defending himself to them. It's a little bit of a long and complex book, the book of Job. But to boil it down, his friends and counselors keep making an argument about the past. What did you do? There had to be something bad or evil that you did. Maybe you don't remember it. Maybe it didn't even seem particularly bad at the time. But you had to have done something bad to have incurred this much wrath of God or negative karma or something. There has to be a reason life is serving you up so many lemons, to put it in the terms of this morning's social media meme. The friends want to go over what he has done in the past. Job defends himself to all these associates, as we heard Ann say. But what I liked about our reading today, as I mentioned, it kind of comes towards the end of all these sort of back and forth discussions, is that Job has a shift in mindset. Instead of combing over all his past actions, he starts to think of the future. He starts to imagine what the rest of his life will be like. How can he put together the broken pieces of what he's lost? He has to, of course. Doesn't really have any other choice. As I mentioned, part of the wager with God is that Satan may not take Job's life, even if he asks for it. Now, mind you, Job is pretty angry with God, no doubt about that, but he also holds out this kind of faint sliver of hope. Oh, that my words were written down. Oh, that they were inscribed in a book. Oh, that with an iron pen and with lead they were engraved on a rock forever. For I know that my Redeemer lives, and that at the last he will stand upon the earth. And after my skin has thus been destroyed, then in my flesh I shall see God, whom I shall see on my side, and my eyes shall behold, and not another. My heart faints within me. That's what I mean by an abundance mindset, being at the heart of our message as Unitarian Universalists. While Job's friends are looking backwards, he dreams of what could be in the future. Now, granted, he is talking specifically about bodily resurrection after death, an important belief in Judaism. And I'm not saying we need to be that literal or, frankly, even that dramatic. But I think Job is onto something here. We're closer to God when we are looking forward rather than trying to dream and trying to dream things that never were, than we are bemoaning the number of lemons coming at us. If Job and all his lemons can manage to make lemonade, then we can be inspired by his example. I look at that picture and I think of seeing maybe a third way here. What if all the poor guy needed is a better juicer? What if the problem is that he's doing all the juicing by himself? Maybe sometimes we have to let down our guard as the big bad adult in charge and admit that we need some help with all the lemons that are going on right now. What if there was a small team behind him juicing lemons next to him? Would he still feel so overwhelmed? That's the true enemy, I suppose. The one that the cartoon's really portraying after all, that feeling of being overwhelmed. The feeling of futility in the face of having to overcome so much. Because what is needed of us right then, in this moment, when we want to put our head down on the desk and give up making lemonade, is exactly the moment when we need to be creative, when we need to get curious and ask new questions. How can this be better? How much sugar do I have left to make lemonade with this situation? And it's so hard to ask those good, fruitful questions when you're exhausted. We need a better juicer or more people juicing with us. Part of the good news, though, is that we can be our most creative when we're feeling the most limited. If we waited to have all the resources we need to come up with the perfect answers to all our problems, then we'll be waiting a very long time. Instead, we are blessed with limitation, which forces us to be creative and curious. What is a new way to adjust our expectations? Is there a new relationship we can form, or a new way to be in relationship in order to make some new reality come about? I find a lot of our problems often come down to how do we connect with people in a new way? And assuming that I as an individual have to do it all on my own. May it be so with you as well. May the God of creative good in the universe bless us in our striving to make lemonade out of the innumerable lemons that seem to keep coming our way. And may we never give up bringing more sugar than sour to our lives, no matter where or how we find ourselves. I love you. Go in peace. Amen.
Each week we make an offering from the bounty that we are blessed to enjoy. We do this in a spirit of love and generosity, aware that we have benefited from those who have gone before, those who in their turn gave generously. Our offering goes to support the work of love and justice undertaken by this community. Today's offering will also be shared with the UUSC in support of their efforts in the aftermath of the earthquake in Haiti, Afghan refugees, and New Orleans after Hurricane Ida. Please refer to our e-newsletter or to our website for more information. You can make your donation in several ways. If present in the sanctuary, you may give cash or a check in the offering plate as it comes by. You may also scan the Q code in your order of service. From your homes, you can make your donation via credit card or PayPal using the links provided in the e-newsletter. Please remember to give a little extra to compensate for the 3% surcharge. Or, if you prefer, you can always mail us a check. The offering will now be given and gratefully received. Please join me now in the dedication of the offering. The words are in your order of service. May these gifts and the work of our hands and hearts give power to always stand for as a community of faith. Please join me now in extinguishing the chalice. Once again, the words are in your order of service. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
Before I do our benediction, I just want to thank Gary for doing our live stream today and for volunteering his services. Thank you, sir. Let us leave this place having been supported, refreshed, and stimulated in our quest to be the kind of people who add dignity to living. Let us now say amen and shalom, knowing that shalom requires doing all we can to make the future better and that amen is a way of saying, yes, we'll do this, rather than a way of saying that things are all done and this is our ending. Go in peace.